tofu. That food feels fuzzy, 'cause it's made from stuff that's scuzzy. I always thought I was such a nerd. I refused to eat that strange bean curd. I wouldn't eat it, oh, but it ate you. Killer tofu. Killer tofu. I eat my sugar cereal, but it makes my teeth bacterial. Swindling kinda cruddy. Just stick right to your buddy. I don't need too much fried food. Killer tofu. Killer tofu. I've been tossing, I've been turning in my bed and in my head's full of pictures. Just to remember that silly old phrase that you used to say. Yeah. No, I don't believe in any scriptures. Is it wrong if I believe that maybe you'll come back someday? I fell in love with an idea. I fell in love with an illusion of you. I fell in love with an attachment. I didn't know how to let go. Melodramatic dramatization. It has really no relation to the truth. It was part of my equation. Now there's no more bunch of numbers for you. I've been tossing out and turning in my bed, and in my head is full of pictures. Just to remember that silly old phrase that you used to say. Hey. So tell me, no, I don't believe in any scripture. Is it wrong if I believe that maybe you'll come back someday? Fell in love with an idea. Fell in love with an illusion of you. Fell in love with an attachment. I didn't know how to let go of you. Melodramatic dramatization. And it has really no relation to the truth. And it was part of my equation. And now I'm a bunch of numbers for you. fell in love with an idea. I fell in love with an illusion of you. Fell in love with an attachment. I didn't know how to let go of you. Melodramatic dramatization. There's really no relation to the truth, and it was part of my equation. Now there's no more punching numbers for you.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television. See what people are saying.
We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the question! Ask them! Ask them! Ask them!
Agreed that everybody wants to stay inside this. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry. America's dead.
Hello,
Welcome, everybody.
happy Labor Day to all the workers of the world, INN, friends and family. What's up, Chris?
How you doing today, man?
Good.
Loving the haircut.
I mean, got a shitty haircut, but whatever
you need to do something with it now.
Yeah. Whatever you had to do to barbecue and watch the world burn and distract yourself, that's the American way. If you look into, you know, Labor Day was actually like a compromise.
I honestly don't know much about Labor Day other than
like Labor Day. Like Jimmy actually has a good video on this. So like apparently Labor Day was based off of like this railroad strike in Chicago, like back in the early 20th century, and it was violent. Like people died, and
yeah.
Like instead of giving the railroad workers any sort of benefits whatsoever, they were just like, hey, let's just give you one day off for the entire year, every year, and that's it. I'm serious. That's seriously what Labor Day is.
I believe you. I completely believe you because it was my understanding
that's
that Labor
why
Day
we have Labor Day.
Ironically started in the United States, but we're like one of the most anti-labor countries in the West.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
It's like a psyop in itself.
Yeah,
I think I have to turn the game down on this a little bit. So like, I just got a new.
How is that working? Because like when I told you like when you plug things in like on Mac, it like slows things down, right? It like takes like a shit ton of RAM with Restream.
Restream is just like once Restream's up, if I'm trying to send messages on Twitter or anything like that, it's like takes 10 minutes to send one message.
It's crazy. No, it takes up so much RAM. I think it's Chrome almost too. Chrome is really.
I use so that's fair because Brave uses Chrome. I believe Brave is built on Chrome, so that's the same difference. But yeah. Anyway, got some good stuff for you guys tonight.
Yeah, we want to spend some time. First to share some things that Pasta is all the way up in Hawaii now.
So you guys know Pasta from Combo Couch. Anyway, like we both kind of decided that, you know, obviously Maui is kind of a top of mind thing that even though it's not getting much coverage,
it's not. And like I don't want
CNN,
but like you're telling, like from what I don't see it on the news. Like my parents watch like maybe like Fox and like MSNBC. They call it balance, but like it's like I know your parents, you're like full of shit libs, right?
I mean, my dad's a never Trumper, so yeah, essentially.
Okay, so like people like there's no one in mainstream media is talking about this.
Literally all they're talking about,
despite like whatever like, you know, people are saying like, oh, like this is just like this is a bait for like the climate conspiracy theorists or whatever. It's not. Like this is a really serious natural disaster that is like unprecedented and killed way more people.
I mean, well, natural disaster.
Disaster. I'm putting that in quotation marks.
But yeah, at the end of the day, is that there's thousands of people who are dead and missing, including children.
Thousands.
We want to stay on top of this. So let's just, we're a friend of the show, Pasta Jardula, who does Combo Couch. He just went out there 3 days ago or something. He was like, F it. There's not enough people out here covering this stuff. And so he's bootstrapping it. And, I think I kind of align for the most part with what he has to say most of the time. And I want to give him a little bit of shout out and give him some support. So he's got some words to go on with this. And then there's like another clip to follow up with to kind of show the state of Maui right now. And again, government is not helping at all.
Hey guys, Pasta Jarduli here, hanging out in Lahaina, Maui, crazy. Sorry I haven't been posting as much as I'd like to, but the internet is kind of wonky where we're at. I returned to where I was yesterday. I'm going to show you guys behind me. We can't go too far down, but you see behind me?
God damn.
That's the devastation of Lahaina.
Holy shit.
It's ridiculous. I'll get a closer shot. I think I posted up. It's almost like a war zone down there. But not here. There's not a lot of people showing up. There's some German guys up there. Where they at? See me, guys? German guys.
See, I wonder what German TV station that is.
But, man, it's been a crazy trip, y'all, so far.
Like
desert man.
A lot of things we can do. So I mean,
over here.
That's what's going on. We're here just trying to find out more information. We're going to go up the road a couple miles. There's a beach set up in the neighboring town where they've set up mutual aid and everything. Not FEMA, not the Red Cross, but the citizens, the locals. They're taking care of each other.
What is the Red Cross doing exactly? I don't even know.
Like, as far as like what their official capacity is?
Some more?
I mean, I don't want to get. I haven't gone too much into the rabbit hole of Red Cross as I have of like USAID, for example. But I would look at. I don't know. I don't want to. I would have to look more into that. I know
do you know that Red Cross they misappropriated 25% of their funds for Haiti? Do you remember that?
That does. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah. That. Or like what Puerto Rico was probably another example.
Yeah.
So Katrina was another example. I know. Whenever you have NGOs getting involved, there's always money getting cut off the top and being given away to the capitalists. So there was actually something I saw. We're not focusing on Maui too much today. There was something I saw with The Rock and Oprah. They like started a fund, like kind of like a crowd fund. But these people, between the two of them, are worth a couple $1 billion at least. But they're like, no, you need to donate.
Yeah, you give the money. We're billions of dollars.
And what's worse than that is that the organization that they set up, all of the C-levels and the admin and the PMC running the show get hundreds of thousands of dollars before any of the donated money even makes it to like helping people of Lahaina. So it's just
a lot of it goes into like internal shit. That's like the way like a lot of
that's how the philanthropy works. It just like most of it ends up going to admin. I mean, Komen, I'm not getting too into the weeds, but Komen for the Cure is a great example. Only about 5% of the money that they get for cancer research and like preventative medicine, all that stuff gets actually put towards helping people. The rest is all admin.
Yeah. Camera guy. He's been amazing. We got some great footage. We got some great interviews already, and we're going to get more. And what we're going to do is we're going to release some of those interviews little by little. When we're able to get to a spot and start doing that, we're going to release those to the people. George is actually working on, we worked on the storyboard yesterday. He's actually working on a whole little documentary. So everything we're experiencing today because of your guys' help, and I want to thank you guys. It was amazing. Because of your help, we're able to pull this off. I'll speak to you guys later. Stay tuned. We'll have more information from Lahaina.
So looking forward to that.
Okay, did he mention, we might have skipped over, but he mentioned a part, there are military cars, people blocking them from coming in and out.
Yeah, I think we showed that too. A little bit.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we showed some of that, but I wanted to, like, yeah, you can see the black fences in the back, or is that just solar?
Yeah, the black fence, like, yeah, that, I mean,
like,
it does.
Pasha is on ground zero right now. He's as close as he can get without the military telling him to fuck off.
Yeah, yeah. But this is honorable too.
This is
mutual aid, no government help. This is the people helping people.
Just tell me how it works, the whole system. Like, somebody comes in, hey, man, I'm a local, or they're known, or we're not.
You know, we're trying to, what we're trying to do is digress from asking too many questions.
Yeah.
For one, people are going through trauma. Number two, people have, you know, maybe ego issues, whatever it is. If you feel like you need to come in and grab something, or you feel like you need something, we don't ask questions where it's going, why you need it, what it's for. If you are coming in, you pick up a bag, you grab pretty much whatever you need.
Yeah.
All the way down the line.
It's all these canned goods. Let me just get this here stuff. Wow. And you can just grab this produce, everything.
We've got fresh mahi and ahi that's going to be cooked up for dinner tonight.
So what is the area which people can donate directly to you guys to help this mutual aid beautifulness take place?
So it's called HonokawaiRelief.com.
Yeah.
This actually started from a media group in Canada. It's called Rebel News.
Oh, I know who Rebel News is.
Yeah.
So yeah, just another shout out to Rebel News,
and Jeremy
Lafredo, who also does some stuff with Gray Zone as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no, fantastic job, amazing. Any mutual aid work, I'm gonna applaud.
And just to kind of put this in the back of people's heads, what's going on here is the foundation of anarchism, guys. This is what anarchism looks like when the government ceases to function and ceases to do what it's supposed to do.
Well, what we're really seeing is post-capitalism in full action. We have a government that has ceased to exist. I like the way that Chris Hedges put it. We have a government that sort of has stuck in the gears of it's not possible at this stage of production in order to actually help people,
right?
Reduce
profit. And kind of like what we were talking about last week with imperialism, it fits right into that they just won't help their own people anymore. But this is, I think there's, depending on when the government decides to actually help the people of Lahaina, or what that help actually ends up looking like, is going to determine how people kind of view, how Lahaina citizens kind of view the government after this. Because it could be really crazy. They could be like, fuck you, government, and just do their own thing. And be like, we're not living in these storage units. Now what? You know? So I think it's going to be interesting.
They're going to have to build their own homes. And I mean, that, you know, whatever.
I mean,
whatever,
already you saw what Rebel News did. That was like a whole market. All of that stuff's free. You know,
a whole free grocery store.
Everything free.
That's amazing.
Like making mahi and ahi tuna for everybody.
It's incredible.
Take what you want, no questions. Everybody's going through trauma. Like, everybody's got their shit. Just take what you need. Like, that's the entire attitude. That's awesome. You know, people who understand that, like, we live in an environment that has surplus.
No, we're living through collapse. This is what collapse, and this is ultimately what this is like about. Like, we're not here. Like, there's to me, like, saying that there's like a, you know, like a pure solution to this. Like, oh, we can like fix America and we can like turn back. Like, no, we're gonna have to go through some really hard times. And like, this is kind of sort of like supposed to be like a wake up of like, you know, look at Flint, look at Maui, look what's happening. This is coming to a town near you, and you already know the government is not helping. They're not going to.
What's kind of the interesting wrinkle to this, with as far as Hawaii is concerned, just because Hawaii, as I understand it, is just like a highly colonized state, is that like, yeah, they're just like, they're the first ones. First of all, as Hawaiians, they don't have the same kind of nationalism the contiguous United States has, and there has been an ongoing effort for decades to erase indigenous culture in Hawaii. So it's just interesting. They're kind of in a unique position where if the government's not going to help them, they can get to the point where they're like why does Hawaii need to be a state? that's like a
Yeah,
valid
they're basically were at that point already when we took them, like,
of course
that's
we
why.
know that like they can't we don't know how they'd like support themselves as like an independent or sovereign or whatever, but seeing stuff like this where they're doing mutual aid to this kind of scale, people are naturally going to start thinking like, well, if we can do all this stuff without government intervention, what else can we do without government intervention? So I think it's really interesting what we're going to see play out over the next few weeks. And I hope people like Pasta and Lafredo are able to get behind those fences and get us some good coverage, because they're obviously hiding something from us.
This is actually a good transition into the water story, which
definitely.
So post-capitalism has reached to a point where I would more say the government has grown a lot of balls since the past couple of years. We've known that like the agenda behind privatizing water has already been like in the talks for a while, but now it's completely out loud. It is they're saying it to your face.
Yeah, and it's not even like a discussion. They're more like, oh, we should do
more
this.
like we should do this.
Yeah.
So now we know, thanks to a CISA document, that the Biden administration is, or at least someone in the Biden administration is looking to privatize the water supply. This is an article from Peter Coffin, who shout out to Peter Coffin. That I know there was like a Common Dreams article on this. I thought it sucked. I thought this was like a way better article.
Common Dreams is like
Common Dreams. Well, Common Dreams is fucking like they're liberal. It's liberal bullshit at this point. Like I used to like them when I was like a little like less awake, but
exactly.
Now I see the agenda that they're pushing, and now it's like okay, now
it's like Jacobin. It's like Jacobin.
Exactly. But I mean, shout out, Peter Coffin had a good, really good take on this. But today, the ruling class doesn't have to hide its agenda. Rather than classify everything, they can openly disclose without promotion, letting information get lost in endless content, such as the report from the Biden administration's National Infrastructure Advisory Council, which the Food and Water Watch brought to light, which have been on this for years, which they're really good. The report would likely have otherwise gone unnoticed, and outlined within the document is an endorsement to privatize American water systems. Yes, really. And this is the openly fantastic thing that I've seen from the U.S. admin in my lifetime. Arpum defines fascism as a terrorist dictatorship of big capital, resulting from crisis arising from capitalism's contradictions and inherent instability.
Okay, is it worth kind of simplifying that a little bit more?
Well, I mean, this that kind of really puts together what we were talking about last time with
just
capitalism.
Like, driving home that fascism is not an aesthetic. It's actually when
we live in a fascist state. This is a
corporate power is making all the rules.
It's not a question. We're living in a fascist country. This is not a question anymore.
Yeah, I know, especially from being terminally online, we like to throw around the word fascist, but there's like an actual freaking.
But the fascist government, right? They're all of them.
All the Western ones, it's all more or less the same. But yeah,
more or less, yeah. You can see what's happening in Nigeria and France. All these imperial powers come together, but here he sort of like outlines like the ongoing water crisis that we have. It's going on. So with the increasing concerns over the stability of our nation's critical infrastructure, the NIAC report articulated potential ramifications. So the infrastructure of the U.S. is a pressing issue. Water is a problem more widespread than people might realize. People will probably recognize Flint, Michigan, led to national.
I have a great meme for that one.
Flint, that poison water. No one has to remember.
That was Flint. Was what? By the way, Flint was what? 12 years ago. Still doesn't have clean water.
More than that, yeah. 12 years ago, no, still no clean water. Still no clean water at all. What about Florida? What's it called? There was another city that.
Well, there was East Palestine back a few months ago. They're not doing
There's
shit
East
there.
Palestine, but I remember either Georgia or Florida.
Oh yeah, there was a Jacksonville,
either Jacksonville is like
Kansas, Jacksonville, Kansas, or something like that. There was another place. Yeah, I'd have to find that. But we have a history of just kind of letting our infrastructure go to shit and then pretending that it's not as bad as it is.
Yeah. The 2023 NAAC report lately
Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you, Dr. Nick. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yes,
I did that meme, and it was like a banger. So remember that.
In 2018, Cape Town, South Africa, city of 4 million people, faced the possibility of day zero, when a day taps in a city would run dry. Persistent droughts for 3 years. Increasingly harsh measures that had not sufficed. Fortunately, the rains came, reservoirs were replenished. And could a day zero happen in the U.S.? Anyone with proximity to or the acknowledgement of issues like Michigan, we should be able to realize that these are real issues that people are dealing with, and that beyond water, we can consistently see our infrastructure collapsing and failing across the country, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because, like I said, we are living in a post-capitalist collapse.
Like it's self-evident, right, that if we're at the point where corporations are now like, we need to privatize all water, that's kind of should be like a signal to people that society's falling apart.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I moved to Colorado years ago, in much of Colorado, I want to say a lot of Colorado, I knew people who had illegal runoff tanks on the back of their houses because Colorado does not allow you to collect runoff because the Colorado River water is also leased out to freaking Nevada and California, I think. So we're not allowed to collect rainwater. Like that's how this shit's been going on fucking forever. It's just getting worse and worse and worse.
They have like similar language, like more enterprises engaging net zero or zero liquid discharge go out.
Come on. We're going to be recycling our fucking toilet water, freaking cook our pasta.
So this is really where the juice is. Rising incidents of water crisis create the need for holistic emergency management. Wonder what that is. Water is a lifeline sector that serves communities, industries, and businesses daily and has the power to bring them back to normal after disaster. As stated previously, community water systems are not typically connected to adjacent systems, unlike electricity and transportation infrastructure, which are interconnected to national networks. Here it is with the climate change. With climate change and increasing water scarcity, as long as the high-intensity precipitation events, the number of significant water crises dramatically increased. So this is like the train that they're
the premise.
This is how we deliver this water crisis. We need to have climate change mixed in there. Maybe we can throw in like a transphobia somehow. I don't know how.
Make it about trans rights.
Yeah, and
I mean, of course, it goes without saying. Of course, we'd know it. They'd make it about fucking climate change.
Recommendations to aid infrastructure owners and operators: create, incentivize, and enforce standards for water use and quality. Promote at the state, tribal, and local levels that new development demonstrates access to a sustainable water supply. Streamline to the permitting process, which can take 8 to 10 years. Incorporating regulatory teeth, in quotations, into source water protection.
Can we just take a moment to recognize that, like, this is what happens when you commoditize fucking water?
Fucking water!
They're trying to freaking how to appropriately use water. What, are you going to push a button and for 30 seconds the like lukewarm water is going to come out of your freaking shower hose? Oh,
we already don't tax food. Like, we understand that that's like, okay, we sort of need this, and it would be kind of ridiculous if I had to pay the government every time I needed something that I literally need to live. And now we're going. Let's make it private. Let's privatize the whole thing. No one can have water.
Or no. That's not the excuse. What capitalists say: no one can have water. Anybody can have water if
you have the money.
If you want the water, it's there for you to purchase. No one's stopping you from buying the water.
They'll make it. Well, that's the framing. It's like it's the freedom of being able to purchase your own water, which should be free in the fucking first.
And it's like what I was telling you yesterday. It's like you're not even buying water; you're buying the plastic water bottle.
Yes, exactly.
Like the water was already there. These companies like Nestle are not in the business of making water; they're in the business of packaging it.
Absolutely not. We're going to show some stuff about that too. Look at this: remove barriers to new ways of funding water projects. They're literally saying
they're going to IMF ourselves.
Look, remove barriers to privatization, concessions, other non-traditional models of funding community water systems. Get rid of it. Stop the public water system. Allow access to privately owned water providers to Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. That's
straight up fascism.
Support and incentivize regionalized of water systems by reviewing the state capacity development policies and ensure beneficial regionalization of a safe harbor from regulatory penalties. They want no one to be sued.
Free
they don't want anyone. They don't want to get into any trouble and absorb trouble systems for a reasonable time period.
What's going to be the thing that's going to freaking drive people to go to people's houses and start taking matters in their own hands? Because water might be it. You tell people, oh, hey, you can only have freaking, 2 liters of water a day for your family of 3 or 4. Like, you're going to have people start getting violent. This is crazy.
Looking up. Yeah, look. Remove barriers to new ways.
So all that means, okay, so that's freaking crazy to me, because that sounds like basically like, how part of how we do imperialism on other countries is we privatize resources and we create funding to privatize those resources. And things have gotten so bad that we're doing it to ourselves now. We're going to create even more debt for ourselves by the government subsidizing private companies like Nestle to sell water back to us. This world is broken.
And if anyone remembers, there does happen to be a rare video that no one can seem to find on YouTube of the CEO of Nestle saying water is not a human right.
You guys might have heard this before, but this is like it comes up once in a while. And just to let you know, this has been memory hold to what on YouTube.
You cannot find it anywhere.
They work their asses off.
Thank God for Alan McLeod. I don't know how this is not taken down already, but I'll say some of the subtitles.
Okay. Rohmaterial, das wir heute noch auf der Welt haben. Und es geht darum, ob wir das normale Wasserversorgung der Bevölkerung privatisieren oder nicht. Und da gibt es 2 verschiedene Anschauungen. Die eine Anschauung, extrem würde ich sagen, wird von einigen von den NGOs vertreten, die darauf pochen, dass Wasser zu einem öffentlichen Recht erklärt wird. Das heißt, als Mensch sollten sie einfach Recht haben, Wasser zu haben.
It sounds crazy, right?
Amazing.
Das ist die eine Extremlösung. Ja? Und die andere, die sagt, Wasser ist ein Lebensmittel, so wie jedes andere Lebensmittel, sollte das einen Marktwert haben. Ich persönlich glaube, es ist besser, man gibt einem Lebensmittel einen Wert, sodass wir alle bewusst sind, dass das etwas kostet, und dann anschließend versucht, dass man mehr spezifisch für diesen Teil der Bevölkerung, der keinen Zugang zu diesem Wasser hat, dass man dann dort etwas spezifischer eingreift, und da gibt es ja verschiedene Möglichkeiten. Also.
Man, there's so many things wrong with this fucking minute. It's just like the idea that water exists and therefore we should have the right to sell it, and therefore because it has the right to sell it. It has some value attached to it, and we should be able to make money.
That is
It's such a depraved.
I don't even think a libertarian would agree with. I think if you talk to a normal libertarian, I don't even think they would take this. Well, no, I'm pretty.
I don't know.
I'm pretty positive that a libertarian would be like, no, this is insane. Maybe I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. Maybe there's some like insane people out there, but. Thanks.
Hey, it's a free market. If it's a free market, just get a job from.
You want your water? Well, it has a price. Sorry.
Freaking crazy. But
he talks. Peter. The reason I like this article is because Peter talks a lot about. He's a Marxist, communist, and he talks a lot about theory within the context of like current day things, which I really enjoy. So. I'll read a little bit of some of this here. To privatize the water system is to create the basis to deny an essential building block of life. Many different schemes might be proposed too, in which they might be said that no one will be not denied water. Still, taking ownership of water and related infrastructure away from public removes its accountability to the public good. When something is publicly owned, the public is at least supposed to have recourse. While it certainly is imperfect, water and infrastructure should be accountable to all and not a board of capitalists capable of acting like beyond their class interests. And the dyed and wool conservatives I've spoken to agree entirely with me on this issue. Like I said, I don't even think a libertarian I think a libertarian would think this is insane.
I mean, who are the people really pushing this? Is it just the freaking like oligarchs in like upper echelon capitalists that are doing this, or is this kind of like a conservative or even like corporate wing of the Democrat Party kind of thing that they're pushing? Because it seems to me that the whole privatizing water thing has been going back and forth for freaking decades, and now it's just getting to the point where they're like, no, we want to privatize all of it and you're not going to have any choice.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it off the premise of 15-minute cities. And if you go over your limit, we're going to charge you out the ass for it. It's just nightmare after nightmare.
Today, we're seeing a more complex, progressive justification, like I showed you. Climate change. It's more important to say that I'm not here to tell you that climate change doesn't exist or that humans have no effect, but that there's plenty of evidence to suggest otherwise. However, the climate change framework is presented as a spectacle rather than scientifically endlessly.
Wow. Thank you, Coffin, for making such a fucking great point there. That's actually a really salient point. I'm glad that he mentions that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to show this. Like prompting pessimism and nihilism, that this is leverageable as justification that they should own the fucking water. Science is an ongoing. We're seeing this with COVID. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like this is the active. Mm-hmm. This is the train. This is the activator of how they take away every single last right that you have. I saw an article today that showed like the anti-chipping movement.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull that up. But
so while you're pulling that up, do you remember a couple years ago there was that psychologist or academic Matthias Desmet, and he posited the whole like mass formation psychosis thing. And like that was during the beginning of COVID, people were freaking out and all that stuff. And, it got debunked a lot. And I think they're still trying to use that kind of mass psychosis as a way to freak people out to get to the point where they're like, oh, I guess we really need to conserve water. I guess we really need to conserve our energy. Oh my God.
Anti-chippers was the latest group of awful people we now have to worry about. This is the new COVIDian. This is the new angle that they attach to
that. They're really trying. Now
if you don't want the chip, if you don't want the chip, you're a Trumper now. That's the way they roll. It's like through this progressive justification, exactly like he says. And science is an ongoing effort that ultimately works toward the discovery of solutions, but science experts in the media often shit on technological solutions. Further, we need to stop seeing, carbon as a problem. Like, we explained the actual effects of climate change. Science can be manipulated to serve political and economic agendas.
I'm glad he's bringing up Bookchin because I got some stuff to say about that. Oh, well, he's actually invoking a little bit of anarchist theory here, but like basically he's making a really good point here that the issue is not that we're like developing new technologies. And, I think most of us can agree that in the right hands, or when it's not incentivized by profit, technology can be great for everybody. Okay. Like, what's his name?
If it's not based on profit, yeah. If
Yeah,
it's based on
okay.
humanity,
So
yeah.
like Kropotkin wrote in Conquest of Bread, he was basically like, if we had the means of production, we would automate the shit out of everything, so we had more time for ourselves, and thus technology was serving us. But the problem is that the technology is serving capitalists, and they're not going to do it so that we can have 10-hour work weeks. They're going to do it so that we can have 40-hour work weeks and work 3 times harder than we do now.
This is a good point here. Climate change is a convenient means to demand ideological alignment of the subordinate class, as anarchist Murray Bookchin specifically did, whether he realizes it or not. This is a quote from him. Questions of growth, profit, and the future of the planet are no longer single issues or clash issues, but human and ecological issues.
They're virtue signals.
Exactly. This removal of the consideration of the class divide enables a high strata of the ruling capitalist class to bring a lower capitalist strata to the reactionary elements of the working classes into service, leading into illusion theorists like Hannah Enderfeld for the assertion. The characteristic feature of fascism is that, in a consequence of a shock suffered by the capitalist economic system and the special objective and subjective circumstances, the bourgeoisie utilizes the discontent of the petty and the middle, urban and rural bourgeoisie, and even certain strata of the declassed proletariat for the purpose of creating a reactionary mass movement. And this is what we see in all of the destabilized countries. All of these like right-wing movements like start popping up. This happened in Yugoslavia, I can tell you that for sure. Like the economy collapses, fascism increases, right-winger, like the conservative, like reactionary. It doesn't even have to necessarily be conservative, just a very extreme reactionary, like nationalist type.
I mean, I guess the really simply way put, I would kind of see what Bookchin is saying here is that like capitalists are going to act cynically 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100. And it's going like when, and it goes back to kind of like how our culture is molded by the bourgeoisie. Like these things that we get encouraged to participate in is not things that are generally aligned with, the plight of the workers. It's actually in the image of, the capitalists and the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. This is an important point here I wanted to make. Like, while leftists might want to assert that fascism is a right-wing ideology, it's not left or right wing. It's not specific to a wing of the liberal political spectrum. Like, we have to get past this idea of left and right. I don't even think it exists personally.
I don't really think it exists either. Like, if
I don't think it exists. I think I talk to like a lot of people about their political views, and like it's really like. It's a mixed bag, and it's not even like there's people who like are like against the I know plenty of trans people, like trans friends, who are against the trans like kids thing, and then I know plenty of like other like people who are like against abortion, but they're like for BLM and all that, and like it's always like a mixed, and it depends on your environment and your experiences. We're talking about people here. We're not like you can't be programmed to a specific like section of like, well, I guess you can through the media, but everything.
I mean, like the political compass shit I think is like total horseshit and doesn't make sense at all the way it's like designed, because like you said,
it's
people are much more nuanced.
Like it's more like entropy and like stagnation. Does that make any sense? It's not like left or right. It's more like we should put movement into this, or we should like halt this. Does that make any sense? Like I don't think politics is like on a wing. I think it's like there's like a.
So I mean that's kind of an interesting thing, because like it's like if I was to try and define, if I was to define, depending on how I describe my politics to people, they will either describe it as right wing or left wing, depending on how like what kind of team sports they do. Because I can describe anarchism in a way that's about liberty, you know, your right to own your guns, you know, the like right to pursue your own interests, and the right for the government not to tell you what to do. Those all sound like pretty conservative views, right? But at the same time, I could be like, yo, property shouldn't exist. You know, private property shouldn't exist. The government shouldn't exist, you know, and it's like, I don't think you get more left than that. So like, I'm kind of with you on that it's almost like left and right is there just to divide.
It's just
like
to distract. In my opinion,
it's like the thing that like a common thing people like if you ask people a question, what's the answer to you know, our failing democracy or electoralism? Is it more parties or less parties?
It's got to be more. Like,
are you sure about that?
When you have the Democratic Party, like talking about like there's
the answer is no parties, zero parties. Yes. I was not making a like a reference there with the okay. I'm just like saying zero.
Well, the
idea is that when you lock people into a certain
it depends. I was thinking more so like in terms of like our current stage. But like ultimately I agree with you. First, there's a lot of things that we need to tackle first before we even like get to like that. Like before we like completely like reshape our political system. We need to get money out of politics. That's number one. And if we don't do that, then everything's gonna be fucked forever. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And unfortunately, that's where it's gonna be unless we're really willing to have a general strike or something.
That's really what needs to come down to, because
it's coming down to that. It's coming down to that.
Remember, there was like a really, really important point that we brought up last week that really ties into this very well, and that's that the top 10% of wealthy people in the United States are single-handedly responsible for saying our economy is growing. Okay, the top 10% have more wealth than the bottom 90%, so they can trade fake pieces of paper all day long on their little computers and still say that the economy is growing while it costs twice as much as it did last year to get your groceries. You know, so there's a huge fucking contradiction there. And so getting money out of politics, while it sounds like a great idea, I think like we need to, like you said, general strike. I would go so far to say a debt strike. I would go so far to say like student loan strike. Like just
student loan strike.
Stop paying your fucking bills, guys. It's gonna hurt for a few years. I promise you.
I'm calling it right now. I tell everyone, burn your student loans. Don't pay them.
Don't pay your student loans. I mean, it's gonna hurt for a couple of years, and then they're gonna see. That fucking almost $2 trillion.
I'm not going to recommend that. This is not financial advice.
No, it's not financial advice, but it worked for me.
This is not financial advice. Please don't take this as financial.
Trash your credit for a few years. Fuck your fucking school debt, because it's a way to freaking extract rent from you from the rest of your life. Okay, I firmly believe that there's an element of putting people into the institution of college as a means to have them be indebted servants for the rest of their lives. You know, you've seen that stuff on Twitter. You've seen that stuff on Facebook where a lady could be in her 50s or 60s and she's still paying freaking $800 a month to her fucking school loans. That's just like a lifetime of having money being taken out of your pocket for an education that was supposed to help you put money into your pocket. So I'm kind of firmly of the belief of like just trashing your credit for a few years, waiting for them to come back and be like, all right, we'll settle with you. You know, or like it's just if we all realize, and instead of getting like hooked thinking about like game theory and how we have to just like that people are going to like be self-interested, if we all just trusted each other and we all just striked at the same time and we all just did that shit, like the banks would be fucked within a week. You know, you have 100 million people.
That's why they crush railroad strikes immediately, because they can shut down the fucking country.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you shut down the country, they get scared, and that's the point.
Like, do you remember?
No one knows that's the point. We'd rather block traffic or like do some other weird shit.
I'm like,
go to a wedding and like
I really hope a debt strike happens because
let me read this one last quote.
Okay.
The old ignorant Malthusian notions of the absolute overpopulation or the modern lugubrious chance of birth control as a necessary solution of poverty are thus abundantly exploded by facts. It is worth noting that this reactionary propaganda is still maintained not only in clerical conservative quarters, but also by the would-be progressives.
Mm-hmm.
Privatizing water while sold as that's written in 1934, by the way. Privatizing water while sold as a means to innovate is actually a means to an end, the advancement of production and technique. Technological innovation will happen one way or another and eventually gets into the way of profits, but the true innovation is these policies that encourage is an enclosure by transforming commonly held resources into privately owned assets. So water privatization is a massive heightening of contradictions and a drastic move. So this should be shocking to everybody. This is not a drill. This is they're really talking about it now. And this if this is in the talks, you already know that it's there's a plan lined out.
So I wonder what that's going to look like. Does that, because I mean we pay our water bills, so technically, it's available to us, but it's still kind of commoditized in a way that we're paying the government to use the water utilities. So if it was privatized, would that mean that kind of like we get our utility?
It would be like Comcast. You know how like
so you get utility bill from Nestle.
You know how like Comcast and like T-Mobile, like they all have like they basically own a monopoly on the market. That would basically be the same exact thing. It would be like you pay for your water bill to a private company. It's not a public utility anymore.
It'd be like you pay instead of
they can shut it off at any time. They can shut it off whenever they want.
Crazy.
And I showed in the document they don't want anyone suing them. They don't want any sort of public
and especially in light of freaking water that was all shut off during the Maui fires, it's just like, we could do that shit again.
Then you begin to wonder, like maybe this is all connected. The water crisis. Remember when Kamala Harris said that like there's going to be a water crisis not too long ago?
Yeah, was that a Freudian slip? Sometimes I can't tell if they're actually like, oh, did they accidentally just like give away the game, or are they like just so high on drugs all the time because they can't form complete sentences sober that they just spew things. Like, that's what I don't know about Kamala. Sometimes Kamala just like says things and I don't know whether she's accidentally like giving away the game or just like shooting from the hip. But that's crazy.
I can't find that video, but here is Bill Burr.
Which one were you looking for?
Kamala Harris saying,
"Oh,
there's going to be a water emergency" or something like that.
Pull up Bill Burr. I'll see if I can find it.
Classic Bill Burr on his response to the Nestle CEO, who thinks that your water is not a human right.
Stuff that they focus on. You know what I mean? There's a guy from Nestle that doesn't think water is a human right. I mean, that guy should be hunted down and shot, right? And they're going to sit and just talk about all the, I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, we got to get America back to work. It's like, dude, this guy wants to own the rain. Can we do something about this guy?
It's true. That's what I was saying in Colorado.
He's supposed to be happy. He's making cocoa for people. This guy's like going, well, people are running out of water. What if we owned all the water? And we left it under our place. And in the future, when everybody's, that's how you picture the guy talking. I want to own the water. Underneath my house. And just, I'll come to the door in a robe, slightly ajar. Right? It's a complete, just the stuff that they focus on.
But yeah. It's crazy.
I found a video where she makes a gaffe saying that we need to reduce population for cleaner air and drinking water.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that. Yeah,
okay, I'll send that to you.
That's all I'm seeing too. But like, I remember specifically like a couple months ago where she said that we're gonna have like a water emergency. There's like the only thing you'll find now is like that population reduction tweet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't. I I vaguely remember her, like, she just gaffes all the time. So, like, I could see.
She's just gaff machine. She's just like the president.
And, like, water has been a kind of, like, for people who have been, like, awake the last few years, water has been this kind of thing that's been in the back of our head that we knew they've been slowly trying to kind of, like, take away from us. And it just feels like it's getting ramped up more. So.
You want to move on to Burning Man?
Yeah, we can do some Burning Man. Yeah,
So-
why don't you start? So first off, I guess I'll start with saying that there was like a lot of crazy information that went around about Burning Man. There's like a terrible storm that happened there a few days ago, and people were making all sorts of excuses and like all sorts of rumors about what was happening. And like, as much as like I'm like in conspiracy theorist mode and want to go down rabbit holes, and like, you know, maybe after a while, sometimes we gotta get into the mindset where we want to latch on to these kind of crazy conspiracies just because we see stuff like Maui, where we're like, well, what else is going on? You know, there's
like
all this
lasers,
chaos happening.
like we don't have to say lasers. It could be arson too.
It could be arson, whatever. The thing is that we see a lot of kind of like chaos happening all over the place, and we're trying to make sense of it. And sometimes it gets a little bit too easy for us to fall into getting psyoped on our own. So, end of the day, there's a few articles you can pull up. Why don't you pull up that TikTok or that?
Yeah. So
that
this was the first thing that I saw.
I think it was one of the first things that I saw too.
I thought it was crazy. Like, this is like, what is like a Maui part 2, but like this is some.
It's almost like I somebody said it was like Fire Festival, and I was like, that kind of is like, that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
Most of y'all have probably heard that Burning Man was declared a national emergency, but there's some pretty crazy stuff coming out. So it was announced earlier that Burning Man was declared a national emergency because it was flooded. And so they sent in FEMA, which already seemed kind of like a weird reason to send in FEMA and keep anyone from leaving the festival. 73,000 people they're keeping locked in there for flooding. Now there's some new terrifying information coming out that there's a virus on the loose in the festival, and that people are getting really sick with boils, vomiting, hemorrhaging. To me, this makes way more sense.
So I don't think there's any information on that, right?
So the guy behind the TrueAnon, I think it's my understanding that TrueAnon was at Burning Man, and as you'll see in some of the other stuff that I have here, I'll expose that it was BS. The whole everybody getting sick stuff was BS.
There was a lot of holes in this, and like, if we're gonna like, I agree with you. Like, if we're seeking the truth here, we have to like really be diligent with our sources and like, you know, see like what's actually happening. You know,
it's so easy to just you have your people.
Yeah, you can do your due diligence on anything. Just use Google, really. I mean,
don't use Google, but like not like Brave is much better at this point.
Use Brave.
Sense in flooding in terms.
Oh, is it stuttering? Okay, just pause again. But it's funny. He actually TrueAnon, the guy, the screenshot that she has behind her. He actually links Falconry, the guy who was making up the stuff about freaking Ebola, and that's kind of how I think that's kind of how the rumor started to perpetuate itself. Of course, Twitter taking its freaking time.
Most of y'all have, and that people are getting really sick with boils, vomiting, hemorrhaging. To me, this makes way more sense than flooding in terms of what their response was to the situation.
Okay.
This is a text from one of the festival goers, and he said, "Yo, just figured you should hear from me first. Daryl is crazy sick with something that has him coughing up really coagulated blood. Medic showed up wearing a full suit. No idea where he is now. I would stay inside your camper." And he goes on to say that an outside agency is putting up a fence. This is a different festival goer that said, "You're never gonna fucking believe it. They're saying it's Ebola." Freaking Ebola at Burning Man, guys. If this is true, that is insane. I just hope that everyone ends up being okay and that they make it out.
So as far as the audio, not really sure. I'm chalking it up to bandwidth. Sorry if it's a little choppy.
Yeah.
But like I think it sounds to me that this lady went a little bit too hard off of trusting every single tweet that she saw on her timeline.
Yeah.
Because
I have a timeline here of exactly.
Okay, you got that. Was it Forbes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we can actually scroll down. There's literally like a timeline there, closer towards the bottom. Just like a little like, kind of like a live stream type thing.
Okay. Wait. Here we go. Wait, so where should we start?
I think you can keep scrolling down. There's literally like a little quick breakdown.
Oh, well, I'm not even there yet. Okay.
Yeah. But basically, it was just like a really bad storm. It got so bad where like literally like tents were folding in half, and you know it's reasonable to believe that when 70,000 rich hippies are out in the middle of the fucking desert and it freaking pours for 2 days, that people are gonna get sick. Is it really surprising me that like people exposed to a bunch of like mud and like dirt and all this shit, like immediately that they end up like having the shits or having freaking getting really sick and stuff like that? No, that doesn't surprise me. That's what's gonna happen. Let me see. I thought there was more.
Wait, so I don't see a timeline.
Let me see.
Is
There's
there
was a huge timeline. Let me see if I can find it. But let me see.
Like I see, so like I'm seeing like dates. So we got like.
I thought I had. But yeah, hold on a second. Like it's closer towards the bottom. I thought. Is it not there? All right. Maybe it's not.
Unless it's like no, I don't know. It looks like all blank.
All right, well that's fine. It does break down a little bit what's kind of going on, but you can kind of see scroll up. But you can see, is that the Forbes? That's the Forbes one where there's no outbreak, right? So at least just show. I'll just show my. I'll just share mine really quick.
No.
I'll show it. Here we go.
Okay.
I just want to show. Let me see something. So let's see. Can you see that screen? Or are you still looking at me? I guess you're still looking at me, huh? Yeah. Can you see my screen? Let me see this. Why is it? Okay. But okay, do you see this? Do you see this right here? This tweet right here.
Oh yeah, the Ebola.
So tweeted and deleted. Apparently, there's a fucking Ebola outbreak at Burning Man. So this is where we got to put out our little like feelers, guys, and you know, I don't know how many of you are like we're keeping up with the Twitter files thing when that first came out after Elon bought Twitter and he contracted a bunch of independent journalists to write about some different facets of it. Well, one of the things, and props to Last American Vagabond Ryan Christian for kind of exposing this, was that like it's great that we're getting some new information on this stuff, but we're not getting any original sourcing. Okay. And he was screaming at the top of his lungs, like, we cannot be okay with just going on the trust factor. Like, oh, I believe that you're providing me original sources, even though it's a screenshot of what's allegedly the original source. And this is a perfect example because this CDC Gov
question everything is the you know.
Yeah, he wears a T-shirt that says question. Yeah, that's the thing. Question everything. He ends the show.
He's very good. Yeah.
But 100%, this freaking CDC Gov, quote unquote tweet is photoshopped, completely made up. It looks legit as fuck, but we got to be better about this because that Ebola fucking scare went around like wildfire, and that's why I wanted to do this story.
It's so easy.
I like, trust me, it would have been a great story to be like, yeah, there's Ebola and there's people in freaking hazmat suits and shit going on Burning Man, but that's just not the reality. And what's kind of sad about this is that let me see if there's the other. I actually kind of follow this guy. So this guy's funny, but he's turning into a bit of a troll, and I'm kind of the belief that he kind of like was the ringleader behind kind of fomenting this rumor that there was an Ebola and the people were getting boils and stuff like that. But you can see Falcon Refinance, he was mainly the one that put out all the fake stuff about there being an Ebola outbreak and stuff like that. So it's more that I'm just kind of coming across, and as much as I wanted to think that there was something crazy happening there, it's really just a nasty storm. So there's that. Let me see. I guess I can close that window. Let me see what else there is. What else did I have here?
This Forbes article here.
Wasn't that the one I just had open?
Yeah.
Oh, the independent. Let me open the independent. Let me open the independent one, because that's the one. That's the one. I think that's the one you should open. That's right. Bear with me for just a second here, guys. So, Burning Man, latest Exodus begins. All right. So we can kind of see. Let me see if I can pull up this timeline. This is what I was looking for. So even after it started to turn into a shit show, like they were doing a shelter in place. They were telling people not to leave. There's tons of videos of people with really nice cars and really nice trucks and really nice campers being completely stranded in Burning Man. Like that is a thing. People are struggling to freaking have enough water, have enough food, be able to get out of there. But you know, any of this sickness that is related to what's going on in Burning Man is not some emergency disaster. It's probably related to the living conditions that they're in as a result of being in the middle of a desert that just fucking had, 75% of their yearly rain in one night. So let's see. People talking a little bit about how fucking shrimp started propping up there. Let's see. But
there's a police investigation here.
I mean, I gotta say, I just want to say that the one thing I found that I also found a little ironic was that it's like after they burned a freaking effigy commemorating a bunch of Ukrainian Nazis.
Yeah, is there video of that?
They all did. I mean, there might have been one like a couple days ago or some pictures and stuff like that, but I just one of the things.
So is this
like obviously it's probably a coincidence, huh?
When does it end? It's a week.
Well, the actual burning of the man, I think, was supposed to happen yesterday, but because of the rain, it gets pushed to today or tomorrow. But it's basically like what, 3 or 4 week festival. And I think they're all leaving this week. Obviously, with the rain and shit, people are trying to get out of there as soon as possible.
And so there's one death.
Yeah. So, and I mean, they don't even know what that one death is really about. Yeah. At the end of the day, one freaking death, guys. So we don't really know what happened there. It's not like people are getting put into little freaking tents and being hermetically sealed. There's nobody in hazmat suits walking around. Just one guy who died. Not sure what happened there.
Well, here's Forbes. They're saying no, there's no Ebola outbreak.
And I mean, as Forbes, so I have no reason to really believe Forbes.
Yeah, me neither. But
like I know the guy who put out the tweets to bullshit. That's the thing. Is like, it's just end of the day. Yeah, maybe there's something to be concerned about as far as like, yeah, there's maybe like an emergency when it comes down to food and water, but there's not an emergency as far as some biological outbreak. I hope people are able to get out of there safely within the next couple days or so.
Well, we know that like our friend Oliver Anthony went. we were really
we know we were told that he went.
Well, we were really disappointed yesterday because we were looking forward to the interview on March. No, I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see.
I actually did.
I genuinely wanted to watch it, and then it turns out that Oliver Anthony is trapped at Burning Man. Now, let me ask you. So, like, to get a quick summary of like what Burning Man is,
it's not like you can just. It's not like you can just.
If
like,
you don't hear from me this week,
stuff and put clothes for full days.
Yeah,
and be like, go to Burning Man. It's freaking expensive.
Yeah, and like I want to say this is the last time I'm talking about Oliver Anthony, but like it's
But the thing is, there will be another Oliver.
It's gonna like I don't know when it's gonna die, and probably like in a couple more weeks. But we'll see. I don't know if this interview is ever gonna happen. But I do know that
it's never get. No, there is no interview. There is no interview.
Yeah, that Spotify money is going to him going to go party with rich Silicon Valley folks. That's basically what it is.
Being rewarded for his freaking service to the fucking neocon establishment.
An elitist and pretentious failed social experiment where us techies and trust fund kids candy flip.
It's a funny video, but I've always wanted to go to Burning Man too. Like,
because
I'm a festival.
Yeah, me too.
What's the playa?
I can't afford it. I mean, it's like what? Well, so like people are saying it's like $500. It's not. It's like
no, it's like a couple grand, dude.
It's a couple grand
because you got to think. First of all,
$500 is like you can't. I think that's like point for like that's not for the whole week.
Have you done the festival thing before?
I've done like music festivals like.
Yeah, so like I did Bonnaroo
like
years ago, and it's like you can get like maybe the ticket is only $500 if you want to stay in a tent. But like, if you want to stay in a tent, you're fucking roughing it, and you're eating out of coolers for days. But like, the way to do it is to either have or rent an RV or a camper. That isn't cheap. And then you have to rent the camper or RV spot. That isn't cheap. You think Oliver Anthony is posted up in a little freaking Coleman tent? No.
If you don't hear from me this week, it's because I'm on
if
the
he's
playa.
even there.
What's the playa, you ask? It's my spiritual home, an elitist and pretentious failed social experiment where us techies and trust fund kids candy flip in orgy tents and eat bluefin tuna that's helicoptered in daily. Us burners abide by the 10 principles, which doesn't sound culty at all. In fact, our radical inclusion principle is so radical.
Buffer.
Wah. Damn, that freaking unicorn
principle is so radical that it's basically fucking impossible to get tickets
unless you're Insta famous.
Experiment where us techies and trust fund kids candy flip in orgy tents and eat bluefin tuna that's helicoptered in daily. Us burners abide by the 10 principles, which doesn't sound culty at all. In fact, our radical inclusion principle is so radical that it's basically fucking impossible to get tickets unless you're Insta-famous or grandfathered in by your sugar daddy. And our decommodification principle is essentially code for wellness influencer brand strategy. Now that my crypto empire has crumbled, it's time for me to turn my full attention towards hedonism and
radical self-expression. That's basically it.
Yeah, it's basically a bunch of trust funders who have nothing to do and have a bunch of failed VCs. So they go out to freaking like be like, oh, like I'm going to be hedonistic and, not be obsessed with consumerism and trying to take money from people, but it ends up just being like 75,000 rich people freaking partying with each other.
And I do want to reemphasize the point. This is not about Oliver Anthony because not Oliver Anthony himself, because politics corrupt. Like Hunter Thompson has a good quote. It's like politics is just the business of like corruption, and it like corrupts anybody who enters it, or something like that. And I agree. So like Oliver Anthony here has like sort of become like idolized, and he let his like I would argue, and I don't know where this came from, like besides like the Jason Howard tweet with the that connection, but like with all of these like conservative like accounts that are like when you see when you see an obvious astroturf, it's an obvious astroturf. I mean, it came up on the GOP debates. Like, come on.
Well, we saw before that, we saw all the Daily Mail staff, like Shapiro and Walsh and all those fucking boosting his shit the second that it went out.
Yeah, the Daily Wire. Yeah.
Like, I mean, straight up, I don't think Oliver Anthony is at Burning Man. I think that's a bullshit. I think that
you think that's bullshit.
100%.
Really?
100%. I'm just of the belief that Noah and Eddie never had an interview with him, told everybody they had an interview with him, and now the manager was probably like, no, fuck off. And instead of being like, oh guys, like that interview fell through, and just like being good liars, they're tripling down, quadrupling down. Like it's not gonna end well for them. They got to figure out a better way to freaking get away from Oliver Anthony.
Maybe they can get AI. They can get
they're gonna AI fucking Oliver Anthony into their freaking studio. That'd be mad fucking funny. Oh man.
So that's a bold claim. That they never reached out to Oliver Anthony.
Yes,
they actually never booked this interview. In fact, they're lying, and
I think they're completely full of shit. Yes, I think they're completely full.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure on that theory, but like I can see that.
Bro, happen. Why would they see? The thing is, like, I started watching the stream yesterday, and they were talking about how they had an email go back and forth between Oliver Anthony, where they said that Oliver Anthony said he was at Burning Man and he was strapped there. But where's the email? I don't for what little I watched, okay, and maybe I missed the part where they were presenting evidence showing the communication between Oliver Anthony and Midwestern Marks. But they just said that they've been having email communication, and like I know better than to go off of fucking hearsay. You know, I know better to go off these fucking reactionaries who freaking want to tail off of a guy who talks about how punching down to freaking welfare recipients.
It's like, not even, and again, like I don't even think it's him. I think it's his handlers who like propped him.
Well, up. Yeah, and I mean, like, okay, so there's a great movie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there's like a great movie that's probably like 15 years old at this point. It's called When the Music Dies. Okay, I had to watch this when I went to like recording arts and broadcasting. When the Music Dies, Eric Clapton's in it. There's a bunch of different stuff in it. Like it's actually really good. And one of the things they talk about just to prove a point is they literally hire somebody this woman who's like, you know, I guess classically attractive, okay, but has no musical talent whatsoever. Zero. She's just a model, okay? And so they basically are like, we're going to show you how she can put out a freaking Billboard top 10, top 100 with having zero talent. And they take this woman who's just a model, who's classically attractive, and they freaking auto-tune the fuck out of her. They hire somebody to write lyrics for her. They hire somebody to come up with a riff for her. They do all the stuff, and she has like the worst voice. She's basically speaking in the freaking you see she has like a terrible voice. She's in the sound booth doing a terrible job, and you just see these like freaking people doing their magic, making her sound like freaking Beyonce. So like it might be hard to believe that Oliver Anthony could just be like a guy who knows how to play guitar a little bit, but that could be all he is, you know? And maybe you've listened to more of his stuff than I have. You said there was like one other thing that he did.
I like the song Virginia a lot.
Maybe he has
his
some
song
like
Virginia is really good actually. He should but that didn't go viral. That's the problem, is that like it became political because you can politicize anything that's vague enough to do so. And that song is perfectly vague to the point where you can turn it into anything that you want. And so it's exactly like Caitlin Johnson said, the conservative wing, they have more of a monopoly on like the media and like propaganda attention. So they know like where the lanes are. They're more familiar with the lanes, and they can, you know, kind of exploit that, which they often do. And you see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Maybe Oliver Anthony, like, give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he actually came out with a song that spoke to a lot of people, but like, people were saying the riff was really freaking derivative, that and I found that the content itself reaches a wide audience and uses reactionary language. Just AstroTurf. Even if it's not AstroTurf, even if it's freaking authentic, and like I wasn't trying to get into a huge like Oliver Anthony thing. It's just bad analysis. Like we shouldn't be galvanizing behind the words of that freaking song.
Right. Yeah. Right. And like if you read Lennon, you wouldn't be saying that. But
and I tried even saying that, but like, yeah, it's just I guess I think that's more for another time. But yeah, like,
yeah,
there's plenty of holes there. But yeah, I firmly believe that Oliver Anthony did not go to Burning Man. I think he's a freaking, because remember, like, he's just an establishment dude. I've heard him talk. Like, I'm sure his manager was like, no, you're not going on a channel called Midwestern to Marx. They're going to fucking, like, they're going to burn you. Like, we were talking in our chat about how, like, we had people ready to go in the super chat and freaking ask the real questions.
Oh, so, yeah. And they were saying it was going to be pre-recorded or something like that. I don't. All right, enough talking shit. I'm done. We're looking for solid.
Please prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong with an interview with Oliver Anthony.
Yeah, okay.
But like it's been like 3 or 4 shows now where they said they were going to have Oliver Anthony, and they're just like, Oliver Anthony canceled. Oh, but we'll keep talking anyway. We got Oliver Anthony in our header, so it looks like we're going to attract people to come see our channel.
We got the nice thumbnail in there. Yeah.
So. But let's leave it like that. I'm not trying to get into like Oliver Anthony today. I think that guy is mainly just AstroTurf, as we've discussed. But if Midwestern Marx wants to discuss the nuance of Taylorism, I'll be more than happy to elaborate with that.
Oh, okay. Like a debate tonight, but I don't know if Eddie's gonna watch, but we'll see.
Not yet. I'll just wait from the tail on the next fucking one-hit wonder.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see that. whatever Griff comes in. So just this past weekend, in fact, 2 days ago, Ford Fischer went down to, I believe, Orlando,
doing God's work.
I mean, I don't know like how he does this. I mean, I saw some. So basically, down in Orlando, Florida, there's a full-on Nazi group called the Blood Tribe. Now, like I've seen like a couple tweets like calling like Ford Fischer like this like sort of like Jew conspiracy, like, or there's like Nazi conspiracy theory where he's he's like this is why he finds all of like these like Nazis all over the country, because he's like connected somehow. So I'm like, I've seen weird shit like that, but like, shout out to Ford Fischer. Ford follows me. He's a great guy.
Just on that thought really quickly. So they're in Altamont Springs right now. Okay. I lived 5 minutes away from that bridge last year.
Oh my God.
So, okay. And on top of that, there is an FBI HQ about 10 minutes from there. In Maitland. Okay. So,
shout out to you, Chef. You got a dog? I didn't. There's a Nazi dog. Why are they making dogs Nazis? Not the dogs, man.
Not the dog. Just leave the dog alone.
That's terrible. No, I'm calling that out. You cannot Nazify a dog. That's fucked up. That's really fucked up.
I didn't even notice that they got the shirts.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Oh my God.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
I noticed this old guy here who just got hit by this Nazi flag in the face.
No one's fucking. So, guys, dude.
So this bald guy, pay attention to him. He's an important character.
Those four fishies. There he is, the fat boy.
Emotional support dog.
Choose red kids. Choose some baby kids. Choose some baby kids, you fucking pedo. Hail the Fuhrer! Hail Hitler! Hail the Fuhrer! Hail Hitler! We just have to start a fire. We have to just start a fire. How do you do it? We're the kindling. And once we set the fire, we get the fire hot, then we get the rest of our brothers blazing. And how do you do that? Be the vanguard. Stick up for ourselves. Stand up. Don't be afraid. Show no fear.
Yet they're all wearing masks.
Oh, there he is, little bone face.
Exactly, Dr. Nick. Why the mask? Yeah, if they're so like out and proud.
Why the mask?
Why the mask?
Well, why the mask? Because of COVID, obviously. They're afraid of the new strain. It's real. You know,
it's definitely not because they're trying to hide their identity.
Yeah.
Because they're fed.
It's definitely not that. And notice how the only guys who don't have masks are the ones who are all over the media.
All over, the ones that everybody knows.
Notice how only the ones who don't have a mask are tattooed all over their faces. They have like Nazi, like they play like these characters.
Yes, that's exactly
today. What are you going to We're doing what you see. We're gathering together. Good to see you again. Protecting our boys.
You must be the new nose in Wisconsin.
Right? No comment.
You earned your colors, I see.
How's it going?
Why are you guys marching today?
Are you worried about
white power?
No,
are you worried? Are you afraid?
No,
How could you be so brave? How could you be so brave?
That's acting.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. And like we talked about this when we were talking about like how with the GOP debate, how like Vivek I kind of saw as like the Trump archetype in that debate. Okay. So like fucking what's his name? What's the bald dude's name again? Like when you get an idea, huh?
Christopher Paul.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, like when you think of a white supremacist Nazi, that's the kind of face that comes into your head. You know, that's the idea that you get in your head. It's not the guys in masks. It's like Boneface and this motherfucker. So like they're literally like playing into, you know, if you really do believe as we do, I think for the most part that this is like mostly a Fed operation and that it's all theatrics. It stands to reason they're like, you look like a fucking Nazi. Why don't you fucking play Nazi for us? So I don't know. Maybe Boneface really is a freaking Nazi, but like I don't know.
Well, he is. He is. Well, I mean, he was in Ukraine. I mean,
we'll get to him.
Let's see with him admitting to shout out to Max Blumenthal saying this is what everyone's talking about.
I love it.
This is I mean, and note like he said this on purpose.
Christopher, there's a presidential race going on right now. Are you going to vote in 2024? What do you think is going to happen?
My vote is useless. I think Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine.
Rockets to Ukraine.
In support of Ukraine, you mean?
Hell Ukraine. Hell Azov.
Hell
Azov. Tell me this, Christopher.
No, he's got to be fed. He's got to be fed.
Slava Ukraine!
You're like Skullface from Marvel,
right?
Boneface. Boneface, sorry.
I'm Boneface.
What inspired you to kind of tattoo up like this?
Ukraine.
Christopher, there's
Nazis for Biden.
So what's funny about that is that the Nazis know that Trump was sending weapons to Ukraine too. You know, Trump was sending weapons during the whole freaking escalation leading up to 2022. He was still sending weapons to Ukraine. So the idea that he's that partisan, and we know from Russiagate how partisan FBI is, it's just another piece that I'm putting together.
Yeah. Boneface admits himself the military is filled with Nazis like himself. Kind of liberal whitewashing when it comes to fascism.
Well, it's like the fucking, you're looking at the shirts that these guys are wearing, and half of them have the Totenkopf, the skull.
The Nazi symbols, like, come on, man. And
They were the same badges we were telling people were freaking Nazi symbolism freaking last year, and nobody believed us. And now they're wearing the freaking Totenkopf on their shirts, like it's like everybody knows that they're freaking Nazis. It's just
here he is, Boneface, saying that he was in Ukraine during the Maidan Revolution. Our regiment wasn't formed yet. It was just a battalion, but I was actively cooperating with the British Right Sector Volunteer Corps. And through them, I found them, and they say the FBI put me there. But the FBI had nothing to do with it. It was actually the CIA. They set me up with them. And at that time, it was all about the revolution itself, about the fact that there was organizations acting, the principles of nationalism. Nationalists here in the U.S. can never unite, you know what I mean? It's not like, nothing like what was happening in Ukraine. I was very attracted to it, as were any other volunteers from America. The Azov battalion was first formed, the third company, composed exclusively of English-speaking people from Norway, Finland, and other countries, and of course Americans. So it was a unit that was made up all sorts of people all over the world, and that was before Azov split into various battalions and units. And it was extremely poorly organized. There were many, many Americans. Zelensky left us to die. He refers us even more than the Russians. I'm convinced of this. This constant bargaining for weapons, constant demand for weapons. We did not see any of these weapons at all. We were never given anything. They decided to turn us all in.
Позволил арестовать всех защитников Азовстали до последнего. Ну да, он всем нам дал гражданство, да. Всех нас наградил медалями за заслуги. Сейчас с нами очень хорошо. Но когда речь зашла о выдаче нам карт социального обеспечения, документов удостоверяющих личность, тут его решимость пошатнулась.
That's what they're pissed about.
И я начал понимать, что Зеленский просто хочет позволить нам умереть. Он отправил нас умирать ради собственных целей.
So,
so he gets it, buddy.
Yeah, we know that Laura Loomer was there. I'm pretty sure there's a video of her. But I do want to say that this connection between the CIA and the Ukraine Nazis, like I really like how T-Lab, but shout out to T-Lab. I'm just going to say it outright. T-Lab had this first.
He's been on this for.
I don't know,
years.
At least a year. Here is Laura Loomer claiming that she broke this story first. This is the first time that we know about Ukrainian neo-Nazis in America, which we know,
well, is she specifically talking about that, or like, because that 1/6 thing, I actually watched that T-Lab thing, and he like called it out months ago.
Yes, there's a CIA document called Project Aerodynamic, and again, shout out to T-Lab for pointing this out, because I would not know this if it wasn't for T-Lab, not Laura Loomer.
And notice how T-Lab, he's pulling out source material. This is
material.
This is literally the CIA document.
Dynamic is to provide an exploitation and expansion of an anti-Soviet Ukrainian resistant movement for Cold War and hot war purposes, such as the Ukrainian Supreme Council's military junction and the Ukrainian nationalists. So it's out there. It's in the public, and I like the way that T-Lab puts it.
Thank you, Gamer.
It's basically the vanilla ISIS. That they're
so okay, so Dr. Nick, T-Lab is Ryan Christian, the last American vagabond. I think his handle is at TLA Vagabond.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just always about sourcing material. Like he drives at home on his show quite a bit. So like I've learned to kind of like internalize that, and like we kind of showed earlier with the Burning Man stuff. That's good to see, good for us to kind of scrutinize this stuff. And like it's like what you showed with actually the CISA doc earlier. Like if you have the opportunity to go through the source material, that's where you're going to learn the most shit. You know, don't hear it from fucking CNN and have some apparatchik tell you like what's in the document. Read it for yourself. Because one of the reasons I don't watch fucking TV anymore is because like the real world is way more fucked up than anything that I could see on TV.
Yeah.
Look, all the tongue comps, dude.
They don't like Nora that much. Here she is on the street because she lives there. She can go there whenever this is just a convenience for her.
Well, I mean.
So I was doing some errands this morning because I live an hour from here, and I had to get my hair done, and I was about to drive over on this exit, and I saw it, so I just pulled over to get some footage of it. It's crazy.
This is just a convenience for her. Again, T-Lab has been on this since the beginning.
Yep, and the
Vanilla
Isis thing, like
T-Lab has been on this.
I'm glad that you're pointing that out, because like Laura Loomer, like who does Laura Loomer? She works for Huffington Post. What does she work for?
I'm not totally sure, but
it's some mainstream shit. But
no, but like, this is normalized. So this is normalized in the industry. Like a lot of here's T-Lab himself. He's saying, you know, apparently she has exclusively confirmed this exact story that he's been breaking down since 2021. Then this happens all the time. No, I want to point this out because you saw how Mint Press stole our video about the Israel, you know, protesters from the RFK thing and
the RFK thing. Yep.
I film a lot. I'm in New York City, so I can film a lot of shit in New York City. And, you know, that's not a convenience for me. Like, I go out and, like, I ride several subways and I have a willful intent to get to a destination in order to film something. And, like, the fact that she just, like, happened to be on her way to her hairdressing appointment and just happened to catch these feds is so much of a load of bullshit. And respect to T-Lab for pointing this out for us since 2021. You saw this with Minpress, like the industrial like news complex that they love to steal from smaller people.
I really do. Yeah. It's really unfortunate that there's like this cynical element. Whether you're indie,
you know why he's
huge channel,
he gets banned everywhere. He has to make like 6 different accounts. I just found his new secret YouTube.
T-Lab?
Yeah.
So like, I know he has a bunch of pirate streams, but
yeah, I know. Yeah. Like I just found one.
That's funny because I just watch his Rumble, but that's
you know, I do too, but like, you know, it's easier.
But yeah, it's unfortunate that like, you know, because I've only been kind of like awake, I guess, since about like late 2021. And so like I'm still kind of new to like seeing people. Yeah, I watched a little bit of Alex Jones back in the day before people told me he was crazy and I should stop watching him. But like it's unfortunate that the people who get labeled conspiracy theorists and have been like staying on top of this shit for literally years. Okay. And T-Lab doesn't get small shows. It's not like he's getting a couple hundred people. Like he'll have shows with 20,000, 25,000 people.
I can guarantee you almost like that the only reason he got on Jimmy Dore was because of pasta. I can almost like
wait. T-Lab got on Jimmy Dore once.
He was just on last week. You didn't see?
No,
but Jimmy Dore wasn't there. No, he was there. He was there. It was Jimmy Pasta.
Ooh, that'd be a great way to red pill fucking Jimmy Dore.
Yeah. T-Lab in there. Someone get Pasta more. T-Lab needs to get more attention. He definitely needs to get more attention because he's been breaking shit down. He's on it. He's
sometimes he's a little bit kind of like. I think sometimes maybe he's a little bit jumps the gun a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But he's not afraid.
That's
He's
the
not
value. That's the value of him, is because like he's very fast.
He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck about waiting to see what the opinion of the hive mind is before he makes his own judgments on this stuff.
It's mostly about the idea of questioning everything that you see, because we live in a world of where practically at this point everything is a psyop. Almost everything.
It really starting to feel like that.
It's and like we're gonna have to disseminate information in a proper way. We're gonna have to educate people. So
it's just and T-Lab even says, Ryan even says on his show, he's like at the end of the day, if you guys want to just take my content and share it and not credit me, I would rather the information be out there than not be out there, because I'm like refusing accreditation. Like he's like always about people being exposed to knowledge and not gatekeeping that knowledge. That being said, it's just really shitty that we're in an environment where even like indie news and even, you know, some bigger journalists, quote unquote, will totally like forget about accreditation, and there's very little collaboration. It's just sort of unfortunate, because like you see, like people who ascribe to freaking like Huffington Post and shit like that are seeing Laura Loomer post this and think it's like a brand new thing, you know, and
and then like all the news outlets are gonna report it, and like no one's gonna get it just sucks to see. It's just really stupid in my opinion. If you can't simply credit someone, that's just you're stealing someone's work. You put time at this time is money, time is investment, and if you put time and work into something, you should get credit for it. That's my opinion.
I just think I agree, and I wish there was more collaboration, but you know, I think you can almost look at that as like a contradiction within our system, because at the same time, we all know as indie journalists that if you're trying to do the freaking streaming thing, you're like bootstrapping that until you have either a lane that you found, or you had a viral video or something like that. You're bootstrapping it, you know? So like, even though we consider ourselves leftists and have kind of a moral compass to try and get away from capital and trying to be more equitable and all this stuff, by virtue of us trying to be successful doing what we're doing, people end up resorting to kind of like stealing each other's content and claiming that they're the first ones to do it and stuff like that. They still kind of like backstab, you know? It's just like, it's just shitty.
Yeah. So, you might.
Yeah, she is a hardcore Zionist. Yes, true.
Yeah, she sucks. She's not even a great reporter, or her opinion sucks, at least.
No, and I'm sure that her take on the freaking Nazis, like, she's not going to tell you that they're fed.
Yeah. You might be. So we showed you how Boneface is connected to the Ukrainian Nazis. Now you might be wondering about this bald character, the tattoo face. His name is. He is the Blood Tribe leader. His name is Christopher Fallis. He's a former U.S. Marine. He goes by Hammer.
Are you sure it's not the Hammer?
An overpass.
No, it doesn't mean violence. All of our goals can be achieved non-violent. The most violence is on your side. Subjugation of our race. That's what we stand against. The reason that you presuppose that there would be violence is because you are ready to use violence to stop us. When you say you and all of the people on that side of the fence, white subjugators, you work for that team. Kikes, jewelry, capitalism, billionaires. That's your side. I know it's your side because you still have a job.
Christopher, there's a presidential race going on right now. Are you going to vote in 2024? What do you think's going to happen?
My vote is useless. I think Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine.
Rockets to Ukraine. Again,
see, and that's the Fed comment right there.
Okay,
that's
but you know he said that on purpose, right? Like, he said that in order to rile people up, in order to like that's the bait.
You're right. It definitely is bait.
That's not a mistake. That's not like an off chance thing. That's the bait.
That's a good call. It's definitely fucking bait.
Well,
it's just really funny, dude. It's so funny.
So let's check out the ADL report on this guy, right? Christopher Wallace, aka Hammer. He's a former U.S. Marine. That's important because a lot of feds end up, becoming connected to the military in some way. You see this a lot.
Yep.
A lot. Yep. If you read the it's like the secret history of the 60s, like the Manson murder or something like that. I forgot the name of the book. It's losing me right now. But the secret history of the 60s, you see a lot of this happening. But in 2020, he was living in Texas. He grew an online following with like neo-Nazi podcasts and called for a last stand, a righteous war, called for the destruction of their birthright and posterity. He began to refer to his following as the Blood Tribe, and then by 2021, he networked with other white supremacist groups to create a membership-based organization. Then in 2022, he goes from Texas to Maine. So let's get this straight. He's a U.S. Marine. He goes from Texas, then he goes to
fucking Maine.
Then he goes to Maine. He purchases 10 acres of land that he's developing in an encampment where likelihood white supremacists gather and live. Now, this is important because when that land that he purchased is used to train Azov, like neo-Nazis, to go fight in Ukraine.
Oh my god, dude!
So for years, the Alliance of it's spearheaded by a Russian volunteer corps. Its leader is Dennis, wanted neo-Nazi. He has this connection to Robert Rundo, the Above Movement, Christopher Wallace. Here he is, and his name just appears everywhere. He's all over the place. He's in Maine. He's in Texas. Here he is in Ohio. He was at this. I think he was at this back in March protesting.
And quick note about the. Are you still okay? Just the quick note about the Rise Above movement. That was the movement that did the Charlottesville protest that ran over that lady. What's her name? Meyer.
Yeah,
I forget her name.
Yeah. So the connection's all here.
Yes. But that what's the name of that group? Rise Above. That's straight up the U.S. arm of Azov Battalion. Like straight up, straight line connecting Azov to Rise Above movement. So it's, we're basically have Azov going on running by this fucking Christopher dude for fucking years. And he has a fucking compound training Nazis in Maine. What the hell's going on? So what do you think he's just part of Operation Aerodynamic, like continuation of it?
Well, here's also something interesting that, I happened to catch right before this show, and I tweeted it out. This is already popping out.
I've been keeping track of it.
When did I tweet this? Like 2 hours ago. It's already got almost 100 likes.
Oh, damn.
So I saw this on RT first. I'm gonna say that first. Like it's in this article about them, but like if you go to this report here by the Maine Wire, it shows that he's a co-owner of neo-Nazi compound in northern Maine by a former Democratic activist, and he may be permitted for. Okay, so the co-owner of a neo-Nazi compound in northern Maine is so he's the leader of a neo-Nazi camp, drawn the attention of most politicians and news media, and his face is everywhere. You have to ask yourself why. Why is that? He's not the only name that appears on the mortgage deed. He's also the other owner is this person named Fred Ramey. He's 47, and he's his apparent partner in Nazism. He's a fellow Nazi, and the two men shared an address here in Wyoming, and then they purchased land in Maine. So they lived together, and then they bought land together. He rented on for press for comment. Prior to joining, Ramy was a truck driver and a former Andrew Yang supporter. Ramy founded Truckers for Yang, a super PAC this is a Nazi that supported Andrew Yang. My mind is blown. I'm like, Ramy found Truckers for Yang, a super PAC that raised more than $100,000 to support Yang's quixotic Democratic campaign for office, according to Federal Election Committee documents. Ramy was
my
Arizona
God.
at the time. This guy's in like 7 different states. He's
you know that we're headed down the wrong road as you see it.
Yes.
And you feel
this is Andrew Yang with a Nazi. Andrew Yang is sitting in a truck with a Nazi. He's talking to a Nazi.
Hey man, they gave him $100,000. He'll fucking.
They gave him $100,000. They gave him $100,000 to a Nazi to support Andrew Yang.
Oh,
what is happening?
Dumb, dude. It's
what
so
world are we in?
Unserious.
No, but as he starts to explain why he believes the policies that he believes in.
Fred the Felon. Truckers for Yang. So there's more in here.
Oh, and Dr. Nick, as far as Rise Above is concerned, again, like TLAV does has done stuff on Rise Above a few times. Search for go to lastamericanvagabond.com and search for Vanilla ISIS, and you'll start coming across that stuff.
So not only was he an Andrew Yang supporter, we also campaigned for Pete Buttigieg.
So a Nazi who's supporting a gay Democrat. Okay. These guys are just nihilists. They're just nihilists. Nobody gives a fuck. The only thing that drives these people are money. Is money. So ridiculous. It just goes to show you that they do not care who supports them. They do not care what their policies are. They just follow the money. Like, these people are so
but they say in the article here, he campaigned for transportation Pete Buttigieg, and so here. Wait. Remy was prohibited from getting a mortgage organization from license. So I'm trying to find his rap sheet. So
kind of funny that he was in Maricopa, because Maricopa is like they have Tent City there, that fucking infamous prison.
No, this is important. This is how you spot a Fed. Okay, this is Fed 101. According to criminal records in Maricopa County, Arizona, where Paulus lived for a time after exiting the U.S. Marine Corps, he was charged but never prosecuted or convicted for multiple marijuana and drug paraphernalia.
Yeah, Arpaio, exactly. Nick.
Felonies. He's got a bunch of felonies that are just dropped. Does that make any sense to you?
That's like the whole Ray Epps thing. Like,
okay, so let me get this straight. He's all over the media. He's at the face of like all the media for the neo-Nazis, right? He's coming from the Marine Corps, the U.S. Marine Corps. He's all over the country. He's in every single state, and then he's got a bunch of felonies that are just gone, wiped off his nothing, never prosecuted, never charged, nothing. But the records are there. So you tell me. I mean, is this a Fed? I mean, smells pretty bad. I mean,
at the very least, he's doing the bidding for him. Like, he could be an informant.
I mean,
that's another way they get away with their freaking never have to do any crimes. Okay, fine. Like, we'll wipe this shit clean. You just gotta freaking be a Nazi for us.
Listen, my only contention is for all the people who are saying stuff like this. Not every Republican is a Nazi, but all Nazis are Republican. That may not actually be the case. I'm sorry.
They literally don't care. They literally
Sometimes,
don't care.
Yeah, maybe not everything is so perfectly.
I mean, where's that picture? Can you find that picture really quickly of Biden with freaking that KKK guy?
Oh yeah, he's like the former KKK guy. Everyone knows that picture. I mean, listen, it's there's no there. It's like I said before, there is no left or right to this. This is
it's just money. It's just nihilism.
It's either money or ideology. That's or both, or they could be fooling these people.
Well, what's the ideology here? You think this guy really interested in replacement theory and all this bullshit, or do you think he's just
the thing? He's pretty dedicated. He's got a Nazi tattoo.
I guess when you get the tattoo, that's like you're either in it deep or the Fed really got something on you.
That's the thing. So when you're a Fed or you're like a willing informant, like you're not necessarily like always like aware of what you're doing. Like they're intelligence really likes to get people who are like very ambitious but are clueless, because that can easily manipulate them and like do things what they want.
Oh, so you're asking like, does he know that he's doing the bidding of the Fed? Does he know that? Probably.
No, he could be like terribly confused, but
that's for sure. I mean, like that's a given, but at the same time.
But regardless, now we know that both of these guys, both Boneface and Christopher, are not only love Azov, but they're going to Ukraine to go fight against Putin. And here's Michael Hudson. I forgot to share this. I wanted to share this. Michael Hudson back in 2015, about how intelligence is using, is basically breeding a Nazi movement within Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. It's 2015, so this is right after Euromaidan.
Look, the Russians are dominating Afghanistan with a civilian secular government. Let's create a new organization. Let's create Al-Qaeda. Let's back Osama bin Laden and give his supporters weapons to begin fighting the Russians, and we can pull a coup d'etat there, and the Russians will fight back, and then we'll say the Russians invaded. And it worked. Saudi Arabia made a deal with America that they would push the Wahhabi extremists, the Al-Qaeda, the most right-wing wing of the Islamic parties, and it worked. Essentially, Al-Qaeda is a contract army for the United States. Well, the same thing was happening in Russia. What Brzezinski wrote was that America's faced with the possibility of not being able to rule the world unilaterally. And that would be a disaster for democracy. That we can't let any country's economic ability to be self-sufficient means potential military power. And in order to prevent any country from threatening America militarily, you have to prevent it from developing economically. The American nightmare, Brzezinski wrote, was that Russia would get together with Germany and with Western Europe, creating Russian raw materials, German industry, and somehow, finally, Russia would become westernized. America, under Brzezinski's strategy, said this would be a disaster because if Russia's westernized, if it becomes democratic, if Europe and Russia are prosperous, then we cannot control them anymore, and they will have no reason to be NATO. We've got to stop Russia, and the place to stop this Russian-European conglomeration is to split it right at the border down Ukraine. Let's do in Ukraine what we did in Afghanistan. Let's back the crazies. Well, most of them are the former neo-Nazi groups that have been so prominent that fly the Nazi flag.
That's 2015.
Yeah, so that's right after Euromaidan. That's
2015.
Really,
this is democracy now. Democracy.
Fuck democracy now.
Brzezinski was.
No, really. I mean, Michael Hudson's on the dot. He's always on it. But I mean, This is
he's right though. Like
it's like T-Lab said, vanilla ISIS. We're breeding a vanilla ISIS. It's not just in Ukraine. It's here too. And I'm not. Like I didn't want to like also like I also want to like kind of like disclose like I'm not saying that there's like no Nazis in America. Like I'm not denying that like all Nazis are feds or something.
No, I don't think we're
Like there's definitely like not like we definitely have Nazis in the United States, but like you have to be very careful. And when you're spotting an actor, like if you've ever been in sales, like if you've ever worked in a sales position, you can smell the bullshit from like a mile away. Okay. And if you're like a working class, like salesperson, like, like if you've ever done telemarketing or anything like that, you can smell the bullshit. This guy's a load of bullshit. I can tell you that.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, great point by Michael Hudson making the comparison to Al-Qaeda and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. I think that's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, the U.S. wants to set up little proxy armies all over the place to do wars for us.
Again, this is not new. 75 years old. This is an ongoing project.
And also, just really quick, and sorry to interrupt, with the point about just about the Nazis in Ukraine, we all know about like Operation Paperclip, where, we helped the worst people, the worst.
It's
Nazis.
beyond that now. We're
so it's not like we're doing some random new thing with Nazis to like embolden them and empower the United States through proxies.
No, we are the
since World War II.
The Nazis are like, the point I'm trying to make is like the Nazis are in the government. Like they're running the government now. I'm serious. Like all the Bush. If you look into the Bush family connections, this is serious stuff. Like this is all real. Like if you like all the skull and bone shit. Like this is not. You could look at documents to prove all this. And like when you see all the ties to Nazism and like all of these like the first Bush, Prescott Bush, was funding the Nazis. He was giving them plenty of money for weapons and for camps. I don't know, but Ford was funding them. Actually, so a funny fact is that Ford sued the U.S. They sued the Allies for bombing their Nazi bomb factories.
Oh yeah, because there was a Ford factory there or something like that. Oh,
and they won. Yeah. And they won. Ford won against the United States because the Allies bombed their Nazi factories.
So
insane.
Insane. It just shows capital rules everything.
In the government. The Nazis have lived in the government.
But that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And it will continue to be like that, and I would anticipate and like you see me like laughing at this stuff just because it's not like I think Nazis are funny. I think the spectacle of people cosplaying as Nazis to create a wedge in America is funny to me. I think seeing these theater productions is funny to me.
Yeah.
Correct, gamer. That was what Paperclip, Operation Paperclip. So, and I mean, there's that meme that shows like, was it after Operation Paperclip, there was like a bunch of Nazis that ended up running the freaking UN, running NASA, running different departments, cabinet positions. So yeah. But do we want to?
Let's move on to housing. Yeah.
Move on. We'll finish up with housing.
Yeah, wrap this up with housing.
All right. So I was gonna talk about this last week. Not too much to get into, just a couple things that like I'm starting to read the tea leaves, and like, my dad lost his house as a result of the last housing crash, and like as a result, I kind of like started to try and kind of like be like, what the fuck happened here, and trying to learn about what happened. And anyway, I'm starting to see the tea leaves with this housing market coming to a head. So I just kind of wanted to bring up a few points really quickly.
I was actually talking to an old neighbor like today, like I was like out doing errands, and I just happened to like catch like an old neighbor. She's divorced now, so like that's why they moved. So like She's divorced, and she was like, we were talking about like housing. She was like, I was like, yeah, I was looking for a new house, but like, it's like insane. The prices are just crazy. It's just like, and she's like, no matter what house I do, like, it's not worth it for me. It's just simply not worth it for me to invest any of this money. And so like, at this, I told her, I was like, do not buy a house.
So
like, whatever money you have, like,
so whatever, like, here's kind of the thing that we'll get into, and I guess we'll start with this article, because what I liked about this article, this is what started getting my brain thinking, because after I saw this article, like within the same day, I saw something else about Zillow that I'll get into in a second. I was like, all right, I'm putting the pieces together. This shit's happening. So what's really interesting, I don't know if any of you guys read Zero Hedge, but they're usually more like libertarian kind of leaning, I would say. So the fact that they do a very fucking Marxist analysis on the Airbnb market and like don't pull any punches about who's really controlling the market, I think is worth going into a little bit. It kind of shows that either an evolution of Zero Hedge, although every single article on Zero Hedge is written by Tyler Durden. If you've read them, like, it's almost always titled by the same person. So it's like, I guess that's a pseudonym for whoever's writing the shit. But I just want to go through a few points here. So, housing globally is in a bubble, which we're constantly assured isn't a bubble. As I discussed yesterday, the problem isn't a housing shortage, it's a concentration of ownership by the wealthy. Very interesting for a kind of a capitalist magazine to have a link to something that says that so explicitly.
Yeah, it's like out.
Yeah, the problem isn't a housing shortage. We don't have to. Okay, but this bubble is fundamentally an artifact of central bank. Where'd it go? Central bank and government policies that enrich the already rich. And let's get an ad.
Yeah.
Let's see. This bubble is fundamentally an artifact of central bank and government policies that enrich the already rich, who are incentivized to outbid each other with low-cost credit to snap up quote-unquote investment properties with their quote-unquote surplus capital. Also, very Marxist analysis on Zero Hedge that generate more income and capital gains than cash, which until recently was quote-unquote trash due to near zero yield savings yields. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that the Airbnb market is dominated by people who are not getting investment, like don't have one property and are just renting it out when they do their vacation.
They're landlords. Yeah.
They're serial landlords. They're people who own tons and tons and tons of property. And actually kind of goes into it a little bit in this next quote. But so many wealthy families collect multiple properties via inheritance as second vacation homes or as long-term rentals. This hoarding is the only possible result of policies that asymmetrically distribute credit and thus income and capital gains to already wealthy rather than the not yet wealthy. This policy-driven hoarding concentration of housing in the top 10% is one factor driving rents higher due to artificial scarcity, a scarcity created by central bank and government policies, not the market. So basically what's happening is you're starting to see these people who are in a position now, if you guys are familiar with kind of where the housing market is right now, like I'm broke as hell, so I'm obviously not in a position to be buying houses right now.
I am too.
But I know the interest rates.
I get paid salary. I'm broke too.
Yeah, at 7.75%.
I'm broke.
Yeah. I saw when I went down there, I saw how fucking expensive it is just to eat there. And I'm like, God.
Oh yeah. No.
But basically what's happening now with the Airbnb market is that housing is getting so expensive at 7.75% interest that the only people who are buying houses, okay, as investment properties, okay, are buying them outright, are people who can afford to take $1 million out of the bank, $2 million out of the bank and throw it down on the house because they're not paying the interest that's going to double or triple the cost of the house over 30 years. So, and on top of that, what they're also doing is, let's say they're buying an overpriced house because the market is ridiculous, but they paid in cash. Maybe they'll leave it vacant because they don't care that they're not renting it out today because they'll recoup the cost when the housing market crashes and they'll be able to be a landlord and rent it out. But the reason they would rather leave it vacant, and this is really kind of like an important thing, they would rather leave these homes vacant than try and get any money from renting, because they're so wealthy that it's more in their best interest to keep it vacant so that the market value doesn't drop than for them to have bidding wars to try and get tenants to fill up those spots, because then it will lower the value of those properties in the area. So we're in a really fucked up situation where the wealthy are just hoarding property. That's kind of the summation of this article. Again, really interesting that his Zero Hedge let a guy have a Marxist analysis on that, but that's kind of what you're seeing here. You know, sure, there are people who are, you may consider working class or petty bourgeois, who have purchased investment property, but they're the ones probably caught holding the bag because they're not able to pay in cash. So that's kind of the first thing to look at, is noticing that there's a lot of empty Airbnb rental units. That's on purpose. It's not because they can't find tenants. It's because they'd rather leave it empty so that the market value doesn't drop. So let's go check out the next one on Zillow, because this is the one that set me off. Or the other Fox Business one. Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, so I'm not even going to read the article. I'm just going to explain this and how kind of this is the sign of end times for the housing crisis. Okay, guys, this is the sign. This is the sign that it's time to like buckle up. So Zillow, as we know, was using their algorithm to try and turn into a developer basically and buy a property across the country instead of just being a website that connected buyers to sellers, right? Zillow actually buys property. So what happened is they're now offering 1% down in certain markets. I'll get to that market in a second. But the really important distinction here, you know, I know most of the time, if you're a first-time homeowner, you usually have to come up with between 3 to 5% at least. If you're not a first-time homeowner, you're usually coming up with closer to 10 to 20%. Okay. So first off, if you're only coming up with 1% down, obviously the rest of that money is going to be the money that you're not coming up with, you have to make up with in your mortgage. So your mortgage rate is going to be higher. Okay. And then at 7.75% with 1% down, your mortgage is going to be, you know, 2.5 times higher than it would have been 10 years ago for the same unit. So, and the other thing to keep in mind here is that what's next is Zillow is going to start offering 0% down. And when 0% down starts happening, that's like, oh shit, the market's on fire. Okay. Because that's going to happen. You know, Zillow offering, I mean, it's already on fire, but what's happening right now with this 1% is they're basically begging the poor workers to freaking buy property because they don't want to get stuck holding the bag.
But
okay?
So they can get trapped in a mortgage.
Zillow has these properties that they overpaid for. Okay. So bring up the other article because it's actually really, it ties in perfectly. So, the market that Zillow is offering 1% down in is Phoenix, Arizona, and the market in Arizona actually went down 4.6% last year. Okay, so like Zillow is like fucking nervous as hell. So just to kind of quote salient point from this article, inventory posted its largest decline in 18 months, according to the report. In addition, new listings were down 22% from last year, and the total number of homes for sale was down 17%, marking the most significant drop in a year and a half. Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index, which gauges requests for home tours and other home buying services for Redfin agents, was down 3% from a year ago. So let's talk about this for a second. So nobody wants to sell their house. Okay, so anybody who bought a house right around the pandemic, maybe a little bit before, was still able to get, you know, maybe with bad credit, 3.5% interest, right? You know, so they're still paying, they might still have shitty credit, but if they were to sell their house today, they're paying double what they were paying to find another house. Like I was talking to a friend yesterday. I was like, you're lucky that you got your house when you did. Do not sell. Just hold on to it. And she's like, I know. I have friends who are like, oh, we can make twice as much money off of our house. We should sell our house. And they sold their house, and now they're renting out a unit that they're paying twice as much as what their mortgage was.
They want you to be permanent rent cattle.
Yes, they want that's
the goal.
That's kind of what I'm getting to here. But basically, what we're seeing now is that the people who own property and were getting property at under 7.75% interest are keeping that property. They're realizing that they won't find a house at a better value, and they're realizing that they're not in a position to buy investment property in cash. Okay.
Normal everyday people are realizing.
Normal everyday people, if they have property that they bought,
everyone I talk to is like no one can buy a house. Like no one can buy a house.
So what's going to happen next? So this is where it starts getting hairy, and this is where I start. We can skip the part about China because I think that's kind of like tangentially related, but not really. So what I see happening eventually, okay, especially there's 1% down and soon to be 0% down mortgages, okay, in a market that has actually been declining year over year, okay, you're going to have people foreclosing within months, okay, and once you have people foreclosing within months, what happens next? So these mortgage lenders, are going to go out and freaking start raising the interest rates on people who have variable interest rates on their mortgages. So the people who are paying, maybe they had an introductory rate of 3.5%, 5%, whatever. Maybe they were paying 7%. That shit's going to go up to 12%. That shit's going to go up to 14%, 15%. People are going to be paying mortgages on something that should be maybe $2,000 a month. Or they're going to be seeing bills that are going to be like 10, 12 grand a month. Not even joking. Okay. So those people are going to start fucking defaulting. Those people are going to start crashing. And then at that point, it's just a domino effect. So I kind of anticipate, we're going to start seeing a crash within the next 6 months to a year. And I think it's going to be really bad for the next couple of years.
Do they say that outright? Do they say that they're going to see? Well, I mean,
that they're anticipating a crash. Like the crash is coming. The crash is definitely coming.
It's almost inevitable at this point. I'm wondering, do you think that timeline is accurate? 6 months to a year.
So let's look at this. Like, even if I go out, even if we extrapolated a year. So listen, let's just make it easy numbers. New listings were down. Let's just say new listings were down 25%. It said 22. Let's just make it 25%. So a quarter over last year. That's incredible, dude. That means that for every 100 houses that were sold last year, only 75 were sold this year. That's crazy. That's a huge fucking drop. And if you're going to extrapolate that, stands to reason that more people are going to be gritting their teeth and wanting to put their feet down this year and next year. So that's going to go up. So what happens when there's no more property to sell? Well, all the people who bought their houses,
BlackRock owns it all.
Yeah. All the people who bought their houses as investment properties, or all the people who thought that they could afford a fucking house at 7.75% interest, or 8%, because I think it's still going to go up, or 10% because I still think it's going to go up. Their realtor never did the mortgage calculator with them. They're going to be stuck holding the bag. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. And who's gonna pick up the foreclosures? The only people who can afford foreclosures are the people who, or I shouldn't even say people, businesses who can pay in cash. Oh, you have this $1 million property that's getting sold for $250K. All right, here's BlackRock throwing down $250K. That's not their house. That's kind of what I see happening.
This generation is so we are anticipating this crash because no one can buy a house. This is the proof right here. No one can buy a fucking house.
I mean, we were talking about
no one's gonna buy a fucking house anytime soon, and I don't think anyone in our generation can afford one. No one can. We're going to be permanent rent cattle, and the point is because, the reason why this is important is because real estate is basically the centerpiece of capital. When you're talking about investment, a lot of these rich people like Elon Musk and I'm not even going to say specific names, but billionaires will buy specific properties as investment because it's easier to have assets instead of having you don't want to have tons of millions of obviously you don't want to. I don't have to really.
Well, so I mean, there's basically two ways capitalists make money. They do it by turning money into a commodity and then turning into money again, buy low, sell high sort of thing, or they buy a commodity like a house. Okay. Then maybe they either renovate it, or maybe they wait for the market to go up, or they turn into landlords and they turn that commodity into more money by renting it out or, selling it at a higher value. So, I mean, that's kind of like what you're saying there. They're not wage laborers. They're not working for somebody getting a paycheck. They make it by either turning their commodities into a more expensive commodity or turning money into more money.
Yeah, like I can't see this like going really any other way at this point.
I mean, it's like the thing is that we used to kind of it was almost crazy to think about almost like a year ago or 2 years ago where people would talk about we're going to become a nation of renters. And even Michael Hudson still talks about this all the time, where we're becoming the rentier class is becoming the dominant class.
The feudalist class.
We're essentially kind of entering, he likes to say it's new feudalism, and like, it's more capitalism.
Neo-feudalism. BlackRock bought an entire fucking town.
So if we're gonna, as long as we're having this kind of like nuanced discussion, I'll kind of go there for a second. But yes, I agree. That we
can. I feel like the real estate angle is like important, is because specifically real estate over the course of history, through several policies and different like laws that have been prohibited throughout the past several decades, real estate has become a substantially valuable asset to have.
Well, and in America,
you don't get taxed a lot on it either, which is why.
Yeah, we were always told when we were, as Americans, that buying a property is the single way to increase your. Yeah.
Don't you want to know? Like, don't you want to know that like you own the place? Don't you want to know that you don't have to answer to some fucking schmuck, like every time, like just to live in a fucking just have a roof over your head? Like, do you really? Is this what we want? Like, do you want to just not own anywhere that you're currently residing? The idea of owning a house is like, it's like you said, that is like
it was a pretty integral thing to the working class kind of raised itself in America.
That was like the nuclear family cell that we were given in like the 60s. Like, buy a house.
That's your investment, your single biggest form of
you're having a show on Thursday about this, right? About
a little bit different. I'll be talking more.
Yeah,
I'm maybe talking about alienation. But the important thing here is that homes were always meant to be the primary vehicle for Americans to acquire wealth and kind of set their roots.
Exactly.
It was always kind of explained to us that it's like you need to buy a house, and like the first house that you buy, you're not going to live in it forever, and you're going to end up selling that house, and that's how you're going to kind of get your roots. And that's gone now. And I know, we can say, I'm sure there's people out there who will say we will ride this out like we rode out 2008. But I think the circumstances are different when you have companies like BlackRock that have like $10 trillion in assets, and they can literally just buy whatever, and they have more money than most countries. It's just like we're not in the same position that we were 10 years ago. And when you hear people like Michael Hudson, like maybe I'll find that video another time, but he talks all the time about how we're entering this kind of new neo-feudalist thing. And I guess you were talking about that before.
When I told that story like earlier in this segment about like when I was I bumped into like my old like ex-neighbor. She was talking to me about how she can't afford a house, and I was like, she was like, yeah, like we're just living in like it's just that's just like the new world that we're living in. That was like specifically the vocabulary that she used, and it kind of like really brought me back, because I was like, this is like an old neighbor. Like this is like a neighbor for like when I was like growing up, like when I was a kid, and like. For her to tell me, like knowing that she hasn't been present in my life for like probably like a decade almost, and then like coming back to me, and then the next conversation I have with her is about like this crazy new world that we're living in, is like this like I don't know, it's people are kind of waking up. I know It's
people
crazy.
It's like people call. It's like how Tate calls it the Matrix, but it's more like people just kind of having an awareness to, I think, the contradictions in capitalism.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more obvious as we go on.
And that's kind of why I've like taken upon myself to try and get better at figuring out how to incorporate more basic theory concepts into our conversations.
I think it's important, yeah.
Like we're at the point where I can tell you guys that the housing market's going to crash, but everybody else is going to say that we'll ride it out and it'll get better and you'll be able to own a house again. And I think that there's plenty of reasons to think that that's not going to happen.
And of course, the Marxists have been aware of the contradictions of capitalism this whole time, and they.
Yeah, but even at the same time, and it's funny is that Marx, among others, never could have anticipated what finance capital has turned into. And so we need to be aware of that and kind of understand that these guys had limitations because they couldn't have imagined how fucking degenerate and depraved these capitalists would be to like make sure that we have no opportunity. Because we should have had socialism 100 years ago.
I mean, so socialism is like the result of like a collapsed capitalism.
Well, the idea, what was supposed to happen was just that after, you had the monopolies like Walmarts and freaking Kroger's and freaking CVS's and the Amazons of the world, once they created these enormous monopolies, they did all the hard work for the countries, and so the idea was, instead of having all the money from these monopolies that they can now use to, do price fixing or give you a lesser product because they're a monopoly. Like Marx's idea was just to come in and be like, okay, the state owns this shit now. Thank you for your service. This is now a utility for the good of the people of this country, instead of enriching the pockets of a few people. But that's not what we got.
Yeah.
So let's see. How do you explain a drain of complete human empathy and emotion? Great question, Team Orca, because I am going to be talking about that on Thursday.
That's a good way.
So
yeah, no,
if you want to Google something, Google theory of alienation.
Yeah,
I'll be talking about that on Thursday. I have particular opinions on that, I think. No. I'm not hating on anybody. Okay, so let me be clear. Because I think you're new. I don't recognize your name, Team Orco. So welcome and thank you for joining our stream. But I understand. Okay, I'm not trying to do some like ableist shit where everybody needs to read. I'm taking it upon myself as somebody who understands that like we're just in a different environment now, and that like it's necessary for us. That I want to be that person who wants to learn and kind of like bestow that knowledge onto you guys. I'm not expecting everybody to be able to like want to read Capital. That book is fucking hard to read. It's fucking hard to read. Okay. Not easy to read. Like, and to be honest, I'm listening to lectures at the same time because that shit's too hard to read for me. And I don't think I'm like an idiot. Some people would call reading ableist. And I think that there's something to be said that you shouldn't gatekeep people from theory, because you're like, I used to hate it when people would be like, dude, you need to fucking read. I can tell you didn't read the book. Like that's not the way to appeal to people.
Concepts can be explained to you in ways that don't have to necessarily be the exact same words of the person who wrote it. So that's right. I don't think you have to necessarily read. I think if you can understand something that's from a book and you haven't necessarily read the text itself, I think makes sense. I mean, I read all the Lenin books like at least one time, and the communist.
Yeah, and like
a lot of it's through audio because like I don't have the time to read all that. I just get Audible and I just like
I'm the same way. Like I'll listen. It's too.
I'll listen to books because like I don't have the time to read. Like, but the thing is, I'm doing shit. Like I'm just gonna like,
The other thing with theory is because it's not like a story. I can listen to these fucking people do like repeat the same concept to me, like a dozen times until it's like fucking in my skull, and I can like kind of contextualize it in the modern environment. So like what I'm going to try and do is I don't want to just talk to people about theory. I want to be like, oh, see what's happening in the world today. well, there's a reason why this is happening, and I'm going to use, you know, Marxist and anarchist ideology to kind of like explain how that stuff has happening instead of some reactionary Republican Democrat bullshit. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I don't think it exists. I don't think left and right exists. That's why
it does. I mean, it's just reactionary. It's just reactionary shit. Someone read Super Imperialism into YouTube. Are you serious? That hasn't been done yet? Because that's on my list of books to read. That's funny. Netflix will never make Capital into a fucking movie. That it can't be done. It can't be done. Read the first 2 chapters of Capital. They can't fucking make that into a movie. It's very, 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 very loquacious.
Karl Marx the movie,
dude. Like, yeah. So how much linen does it take to, like, what is the value of a linen to make one coat, and like what is but where are we going with this anyway? I think
we're pretty good on time here.
Okay, yeah, 2.5 hours. That's pretty good on time tonight. But I'll be back. Yes, I will be talking about, you know, a little bit more theory. I got some videos and stuff to kind of conceptualize. But I'm gonna be talking on Thursday on Bread and Circuses. For you guys who have seen it before, I am like really trying to like. I'm still going to do like news and stuff and some deep dives, but I do want to do more theory because like I just think that we need to be more aware of how our world works if we want to beat the capitalists.
Yeah, like especially if you have people like listening to Midwestern Marx or whatever.
And I mean, like, if we want to bring it full circle and shit on Midwestern Marx again. I'm just saying, like, I'm learning too, and as I learn,
whatever,
you know, and me making this commitment to like wanting to bestow that knowledge onto you guys means I'm going to be more encouraged to like learn about this stuff and try and incorporate it into my programming more. So it'll keep me honest. And by the way, if you guys know more than all I do, and you think that I'm like mischaracterizing, you know, an analysis, by all means, call me out on my shit in the comments.
Yeah, send us a segment. Send us a your suggestions, anything you want to do, and, you know, and most importantly, you know, like and subscribe because you know, we are
please.
We are a slowly growing channel, but you know,
we're growing, we're evolving. You know, we're starting to.
We got 7 shows. We got a show pretty much every single day. You know, INN News is coming back this Wednesday. They were taking a break on a couple weeks. I know Bitch is coming back. I know Tara's coming back. So it's going to be a busy week for INN. I know the schedule is probably going to be up, but thank you all for joining. You know, most importantly, you know, it's people.
It means a lot, guys.
The people that, you know, I don't see really anything, in my opinion, as like a single person project. Like I see everything as like a group. Like I don't think I read a quote once where like it was like nothing happens by one single person. It's like it's always like a, you know, phenomena or like a community, you know, and that's
it's like we were saying earlier,
we're looking to do. Like, we're looking to grow like more like a community.
We kind of have the ethos with this channel to kind of just be collaborative and share like the information that we have with everybody, and everybody has their own strengths that they want to bring to the table.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what we're trying to go with. But, you know, now that we have shows every day this week, every day, almost every day now, you know, we have things in the works to, you know, keep building this channel. I literally just bought a mic here. You can't really see it, but
he's another Blue Yeti.
Got another monitor coming in by the end of this week. So yeah, I'm stoked. Right. But appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.